Now, the last thing that we need to take a look at here for nomenclature is how to name complex substituent groups. Now, up to this point, we have seen how to name simple groups, like this is a methyl. Right, that would be a CH3. And then we also saw, for example, the ethyl. Now, it turns out that our branches can have branches. And there's a way of naming this when we encounter this situation. And it's fairly straightforward, but it requires a little bit of an adjustment phase to kind of incorporate this into your knowledge. So step one, it's what we've seen all along. Find the longest carbon chain that starts from the point of attachment to the parent chain. So when we name this thing, let's take a look. Who is our parent? This is our parent. That has, let's count them up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Right, and we get a 4 going from either direction on this one. Right, so 7, by the way, means that it's hept, and it's an alkane, so we throw in the ane in there, right? A-N-E. All right, so our point of attachment is here. So off of carbon number 4, we're connected directly to this carbon. So that's our first point of attachment to our parent chain, okay? And our longest carbon chain off of that is 1 carbon. And so here we have a carbon, and it doesn't matter if we go over this direction, right, over here to the middle, over here to the right. There's just 2 carbons. So 1 carbon, 2 carbons. All right, so what I'm going to do here in this case is I'm going to circle that carbon-carbon chain, and I'm going to make a note. The longest carbon chain that we have sticking off of carbon number 4 of our heptane is 2 carbons in a row, and that's eth. That means it's an ethyl. It's not just an ethyl, though, because an ethyl would be a CH2CH3. Okay, so we're not done. So let's look down below it. Number 2. We want to number the longest carbon chain starting from the point of attachment. So we're starting right here at our point of attachment. Right? Remember, this is our parent, and that's our first point of attachment there. Right there. Okay? And it's connected to another carbon. That we said was our parent. And this again is your ethyl. Now, we call that carbon number 1. So the first point of attachment off of carbon number 4 as our substituent, we number as number 1. That's always just your number 1. And sticking off of number 1, we have 2 groups. We have a CH3 and another CH3. So those are methyls. So we have a 1 methyl and another 1 methyl there. And then we combine those into 1,1 dimethyl. All right. So those are the names of our branches on the complicated substituent chain. We just did this. And now we want to list them in front of the parent name. Okay. So putting all that together, that 1,1 dimethyl is sticking off of an ethyl. So when we put that together, we have a 1,1 dimethyl. Okay, those are the things sticking off of right here. And then the parent substituent is an ethyl. All right. Now that whole thing, that's the name of this whole beast right here. That whole thing is sticking off of carbon number 4 of our parent. But if we do this, it's confusing. It looks like 4-11 dimethyl. Is it, do you mean trimethyl, or what does that mean? So instead, we need to put parentheses around this. Right? So that indicates, hey, at number 4, we've got this complicated thing going on there. Right? And then at the end, we add the name heptane. Right? Now, the other thing I'll point out here is to simplify life, if we see these parentheses, Then what we do is we just take the first letter in the name and we use that for alphabetizing. So remember di and tri and tetra, those don't count if we don't have parentheses. But if you do have parentheses, then we now are going to count them. All right, so let's look at this as an example down here below. Let's see if we can name this molecule. So remember, step number one is we go through and look at this. Longest carbon chain. There's your longest carbon chain. All right, we count it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So again, this is another hept, and it's an alkane. So that's our parent name. Now remember, we want to number it from this side because that gives us a substituent at number 2 and at number 4. If you numbered it from over here, then you're going to get a higher number for that, right? So going through that, you're going to get 2. And then that is a simple substituent. That's a CH3, right? That's there. So together we call that a methyl. And then at number 4, we have some other business happening here. Remember, this happens to be that same group that we saw before. So there's my first point of attachment. Okay, in this case, we'll come up here and we'll follow the same pattern. This is my longest carbon chain that way. Now, as a side note, you could have called that your longest carbon chain. You could have called this your longest carbon chain because it's a tie. It's a tie every way you go. So that's an eth. So this is an ethyl. And then here's a methyl and a methyl. So putting those together, you get a 1,1 dimethyl. And then that goes in our parentheses. So 4-1, comma 1, dimethyl, ethyl, and then we throw heptane in here. So now we have to put these in alphabetical order. So we look at this. Here's methyl, M, and then next we compare that to D. So D comes before M. So the full name of this is going to be 4,1,1 dimethyl ethyl. And then what do we have at number 2? We have methyl, and then we have the parent, which is heptane. And there we have it. So kind of a lot of things to remember, but it becomes second nature to you as you practice this.